Welcome to episode 22 of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your host, Jesse, and thank you all so much for listening. Today, two guests. One is producer Greg, who is, as always, across the internet. And new guest to the show, John, starts on the internet, and his mic wasn't cutting it. So he hopped in his car and drove over during the first break to join us in studio. First time that's ever happened. So hang in there on John's audio. It does improve after the first break. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe if you're an iTunes user. Make sure you tell a friend. And as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 22 of the Serial Chillers podcast. Welcome to episode 22 of 1 Million, boys, the Serial Chillers podcast. That is right. We are here, everybody. It's happening again. We have a 22nd episode. It's going forward. What do you know? So, today, I have two internet guests with me. One, constant, brand new co-host. I'm already sick of him, but he's here anyway. Producer Greg.
Oh, I was going to say, it's not very nice to talk about John. He just got here. and then it hit me.
Yep, and then we have John. John, I've just met him tonight. He is a secret CIA operative I brought here just specifically to talk to Greg. We're really going to drag some information out. No, John.
Disinfo agent.
John and I actually go back pretty far too, separate from knowing you through Greg. That's kind of cool too. That's a little side nugget for everybody there.
Biggest small town in America.
There you go. So, welcome, John. Welcome, Greg. So, how the game works, I know you guys know, but I'm just going to let everyone else know that each week I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell a story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys will chime in on my story and have stories of your own that are true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious. Here is how the game works. There will be several questions throughout the episode that will be worth somewhere between 250 and infinity points. There will be multiple choice, and some you'll have to stab at, although the closest answer... though some of them, the closest answer is the only one that's going to get points. All multiple choice questions are able to be stabbed at for bonus points, but if you take a stab, that is your only guess. Lastly, if you have questions about the questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never asked questions. Any questions?
Yes. As a producer, I have a note. It's sort of a question. How do you not have that beginning part memorized yet?
It's mostly memorized. I'm rolling it out. It's here for just in case now. It's a crutch, really.
You were killing it, and then all of a sudden I was like, what happened?
Yeah. That's what I honestly, I was killing it when I was rolling it off the top, and then I looked down at it, and yeah, so.
I got you.
That's up. It's like running. You gotta look forward. Look down at your feet and you stumble.
But as a lot of people know, we don't strive for the high quality here on the Serial Chillers podcast. So, I guess I should say, welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Also, Greg, I apologize. Let me just really quickly say, travel back in time. And welcome to the show, producer Greg. Yep. And welcome to the show, producer Greg.
I was like, am I missing a cue or something?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't playing, and I just had the tape level turned down. So,
see, I mean, I feel like the conspiracy stuff, especially with the last 10 days of my life, you're just mocking me at this point.
Listen. And this is what I tell you, that you can't mock somebody who's mocking something. You can't mock somebody who for what they're mocking. That's what I feel like.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, this will be a fun edit. So today, you guys, I also kept it kind of local. Your serial killer is Cary Stayner. Yes. So, as we'll remember from, I believe it was episode 17, Casey or Bigfoot, depending on how well you know him, was in here and told us the Steven Stayner story. this his brother. So, question number 1. In what year was Cary Stayner born? The closest to the answer is going to get 250 points.
1968.
John.
72.
68 and 72, they say. Cary Stayner was born August 13th, 1961. Greg's getting the points, 250 to you. So here's
I
what
didn't realize he was the older brother.
So he is the oldest brother. Here's how we'll do it today. Greg, we had you answered first that time. John, you'll answer first next time, since we're not going to have the whiteboards on this one. So again, he's born August 13th to Dell and Kay Stayner. Both are very religious. Again, Cary is the oldest of 5. At 3 years old in 1964, he is diagnosed with trichotillomania, which is the obsessive-compulsive hair pulling. He's prescribed medication for it, and it seems to get better. But he would just, throughout his life, be a hair puller to the extent that he would just... I think there was a principal on one of the documentaries that I said that he would just reach up and grab entire clumps of hair and rip them out of his head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was really, really bad. In 1968, he's now 7 years old. He has his first violent fantasies about women. He dreamed of capturing women and killing them at 7. So, and this is by his own... Go ahead.
No, that's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. This is by his own account. So, you know, a lot of people will say that his brother being kidnapped is what really did it to him. And he's always maintained that it was actually well before his brother was kidnapped that he had issues. So he imagined killing the female cashiers at grocery stores while he was there waiting for his parents. In 1972, he's now 11 years old. He starts to imagine that his mother would be kidnapped. He's also, at this time, goes on a camping trip with the family and his Uncle Jesse. No relation to this Uncle Jesse or Katsopoulos. I'll speak for both of us. Because this Uncle Jesse, unfortunately, sexually molests poor Cary Stayner on the camping trip. So, question number 2. He has a brother who is abducted, Stephen. In what year is he abducted? So this time, John, it's going to be your turn to answer first.
Oh, man.
Wait, is it a multiple choice or is it a stab?
It's a stab for 250.
78.
John says 78. Greg.
I'll take 79.
Should have taken...
No, I lied. 72.
It might have been a hand off a chess piece, man. I'm gonna let John decide whether he's gonna let you change your answer, because I'm gonna say your hand was off the piece. As your opponent, I'm gonna let him decide whether he's gonna let you change it.
That's fine.
I'll let him change it. That's fine.
Well, letting him change it allowed him to nail it on the nose. It was 1972. John...
Well, I started thinking about it. I was like, if he was born in 61, in 78, he'd be 16, 17 years old.
John, quit being nice to Greg.
That's hard to abduct a teenager.
That's all I've got to say.
Oh, I thought you meant his brother was that old.
Yep. So, at this time in 1972, his brother Stephen Stayner is kidnapped on December 4th by pedophile Kenneth Parnell. Those who have listened to the show may remember again Casey from episode 16. I have it written here. Check out that episode and check out Casey on Instagram at Bigfoot Designs. Cary claims that before the day that Stephen was abducted, he had never seen his dad cry. Not a single time, not once, not never. So really quick overview for anybody who maybe missed that episode or doesn't know in general. Stephen was abducted while walking home from school. He was 7 at the time. He was kept and molested for 8 years. Once he had essentially aged out for Kenneth Parnell, he abducted another younger boy. Stayner at this time sort of got pretty heroic, realized the pain and the anguish that he had gone through in his lifetime, and decided he was going to get that kid out of there. So they lived a very free lifestyle. They weren't like locked in a room or anything. He more like got them when they were young, and he conditioned them. He made them his. He molded them. So
I believe the phrase is grooming.
He groomed them. There we go. So Stephen. Yeah, so Stephen remembers this and says, "Nah, like I'm gonna get this kid out of here." So at a time when they can get free, Stephen takes a kid and then they get out. So Stephen was a hero. They erected a statue in his honor. It's kind of a huge thing. It's international news. Everybody heard about it. It was this, how often is somebody kidnapped at 7 years old and recovered 8 years later alive and well? I mean, as alive and well as he could have been, all things considered.
All things considered.
Right. So there's a little more about Stephen later, but we'll move on. This is about Cary Stayner. This would have pissed off Cary Stayner too, because he did not live a very loving life once Stephen came back. So 1973 and 74, 12 or 13-year-old Cary Stayner has dark, sadistic fantasies about women marching naked and being gang raped. In the 7th grade, he was placed in gifted classes. So he was a very, very intelligent young man. He has several... in this summer, he and several neighborhood boys stripped naked and ran back and forth in front of several girls playing in the neighborhood. This would be the start of his lifelong love of nudism. What a fun little hobby he's got there. So,
who doesn't hate being naked?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more of like it's got to be a consensual thing. Like other people have to sign off on your nudity as well for it to be okay.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to do in your backyard, but front yard you got to ask your neighbors.
Right.
So another quick
HOA
note.
frowns on that.
Another quick note about Cary in his teenage years is he was actually like a really great artist. He wanted to be an artist. He drew comics for the school newspaper. And one of the documentaries I was watching, it was sort of like scrolling comics in the background when they were talking about it, but it was like very background. So I didn't realize until after they were done talking that all the comics that had just scrolled through were Cary Stayner's comics. So when I rolled it back and watched it, dude, they were good. He was very good.
Cool.
So yeah, random fact. Sorry, just kind of pointed out here. This is one of my shorter outlines. So, a little fluff never killed anybody. Question number 3, guys, we're getting there, dude. At 16 years old, he has an event with a sister's friend during a sleepover. What did he do? This one is going to be multiple choice. Greg, you have the first guess on it, but you can write it down if you'd like, if you're going to stab. I have 4 multiple choice options otherwise.
Can I get a Hollywood Squares answer first?
Yeah, let's get your Hollywood Squares answer.
I'm gonna say he tripped and fell into her.
All right, so you're taking multiple choice, huh?
Yes, please.
Did he A, rape her, B, grope her and expose himself, C, a little molest, or D, there's no event?
Ooh, trick question. I will take B. Some groping, misconstrued as heavy petting by him.
Groping and exposing. John.
Yeah.
I think he's going to dive in it. I'm thinking a little molest.
He's taking a little molest. And it's going to seem like it, but I assure you that it is not fixed. Producer Greg scores 250 more. Great job, Greg. Great job.
Thanks.
You're going up 750.
Woo.
To 0.
That's what's up.
Sorry, John.
It's all right.
So, in 1977, the now 16-year-old Cary Stayner has his sister doing a little sleepover. It's actually a neighbor. Her name is Flores Tatum. She's spending the night, and Cary creeps in under the bed and reaches up and touches her breast. Think under the bed, reaching out, just hand. And what a fucking idiot. So he leaves, and he comes back, and he just kind of stands in the doorway and just, flops it out and shows her a little like, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? So a few years later in 1979, nothing comes of this, obviously. It's 1977. Nobody said shit. He grabbed her and showed her his penis. What a fuckface. In 1979, he is now 18. Classmates vote Cary Stayner the most creative student in his graduating class at Merced High School. And also the same year, he graduates Merced High School. In March of 1980, Stephen Stayner escapes captivity with Timmy White. Stephen Stayner is then reunited with his family on March 1st. How does Cary react to Stephen's return? We have a multiple choice option only on this one. He's very happy. He is jealous and feels forgotten. He just pure straight hates his brother. Or he runs away for a while.
I feel like he was super jellyfish, so I'm going to go with C.
B? Jealous and feels forgotten?
Or yeah, B. Yeah, B.
Greg?
I say he runs away for a while.
Greg says he runs away. John says he feels jealous and feels forgotten. John's getting the points. 250 points. Cary Stayner. Very jealous. Feels very forgotten. And he's not jealous for no reason. While Stephen... It's 250 to 750, by the way. While Stephen Stayner was gone, Kenneth Parnell let him smoke cigarettes and pot and drink, and there weren't a whole lot of rules for him. So when he came back to his very religious family who sat around the dinner table holding hands, saying grace every night, they went to church on Sunday together. His parents didn't really force him to do all those things. They let him get away with smoking in the house and underage drinking, and he kind of came back a party boy, and they allowed him to do that. However, became no more lenient on any of the other 4 children. So Steve's just been abducted for 7 years, comes back and gets kind of run of the house. So that's I'm not justifying Cary any of his actions or anything, but that's his big reason for feeling jealous and forgotten, is that, Steve got to call the shots essentially once he got back, as you might imagine would happen. I can't imagine completely signing off the fact that my kid might be alive and just saying like, yeah, he's dead. There's no way. Like, he's been dead in my mind. Yeah. And he just like, hey, Dad, what's going on, brother? That's how you get a brewski or what? Like, what do you got going down here?
Yeah, and how do you tell him no?
Right. How do you tell him no? So we're going to take a little break right here and come back with a little more Cary Stayner, come back with a story by John. And if you don't come back, we'll kill you.
All of us.
All 3 of us. From 3 separate locations.
Fair enough.
Hey guys, if you're ever interested in how you could support the show, we just wanted to let you know that patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast is the way to do it. If you feel like the show deserves anything and any right, if you've ever enjoyed it for even a second, you can give as little as $1 a month to help the wheels keep on turning. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the support in advance. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. Thank you. All right, well, welcome back from the break. Hey, Greg, what's the coolest thing you could possibly do on a break?
I guess the coolest thing I can do?
I guess as a show,
I mean,
what?
Art projects. I mean, charity work.
Man, you got a lot of good ideas, bro.
Yeah. I mean, best thing I could probably think of would be change locations.
Change locations. So John was out on his own. Like I said at the beginning, we had 2 online guests. We couldn't get all the technicals worked out. Had a little difficulty. I said, John, where do you live? And he was like, not far. So during the break, John is now in studio. Hey, John.
Hey, how's it going?
Whoa, you can actually hear his voice now. That shit is crazy.
And I apologize for all of that.
Please do not apologize. Stuff your sorries in a sack, as my dear friend Greg would always say. So that's kind of cool. That's cool. John came over. We extended the break a little, and now we've got John here in studio. It's nice to have him right across from me. And Greg can't see him, but I'm trying to keep secrets anyway. So John and I are using hand signals off screen.
Sorry, it's okay. I only know the Air Force signals, so.
JD.
I was saying, after we're done, I want to get a cheeseburger.
Come on. Come on.
Such a good movie.
So, we talked a little bit about Cary being, jealous and feeling forgotten because of the things that Steven got to do when he returned. Another thing too that he's kind of starving for is attention, and Steven gets nothing but that. The media wants attention on him. They want to maybe make a TV miniseries, which in 1985 J.P. Miller works with the Stayner family to create a TV miniseries about Steven's kidnapping. During that time, Cary shows pencil drawings that he had done to J.P. Miller, and Miller suggests that he should send them to colleges, and Cary says, no, it'd never happen. What a downtrodden little emo son of a bitch. But he's 24 at this point, so get over it, bro.
I mean, what was he expecting to have happen? Like, he's going to show him to his producer, and this guy's like, you're going to be a talent. Let me take those, and here's $1 million.
I'm taking you to the top, son.
Gonna be a big star.
So, no, what he does is it doesn't happen. He doesn't send him to colleges. He decides he's not going to college. In 89, he's now 28 years old, and he's working at a car glass shop and tells his friend Marquesa after she walks out on him slamming his fists into plywood. Apparently, he had just beaten his own fists into pulps on this giant sheet of plywood. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he said that he felt like he was having a nervous breakdown. He told her that he, quote, felt like getting in his truck and driving into the office of the glass company he worked at and killing. No, that's not the quote. Here's the quote. I feel like getting in my truck and driving into the office and killing everybody, my boss included, everybody in there, then torching the place, end quote. On September 16th. So that's kind of we're starting to see signs of a little bit of a break. On September 16th of the same year, 1989, Steven, his younger brother, who had survived so much, would die an unexpected death. Question number 5. How did it happen? This one is also multiple choice, but can be stabbed at.
How did he die?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How did Steven Stayner die September 16th, 1989? His life was cut short unexpectedly. There is multiple choice on it. If you'd like to stab, it is 1,000 points.
So you just want to know how he died.
How did he die?
How did he die? It was an unexpected death in 1989.
I'm taking multiple choice because I got no clue.
Okay, I want to stab.
Greg wants to stab.
Because I actually know this one.
Write it down. Oh, you know it? Dang.
I do.
He's gonna okay, well then just write it down for me. Just write it down. Because I'm going to give John the multiple choice. Or you know what? You could write it. Is your phone on airplane mode?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Okay, just write it down. You got a pen?
I'm sending it to you in a message.
Okay, cool. Okay, so John, was he murdered? Did he drown? Did he die in a motorcycle accident? Or was it a drug overdose?
Oh, this is so good. I'm going to go motorcycle accident.
John's going motorcycle accident. Greg? Greg gave the full story explanation here. But yes, Greg is also correct. But Greg's going to get 1,000 for the stab.
Dang.
Great job, Greg. Stretching out that lead. To be perfectly honest with you, and I don't know this for sure, this might be the earliest it's ever been mathematically over. It's 1,750 to 250 with 5 questions remaining. So start stabbing. For sure start stabbing. That's all I can really tell you.
Fair enough.
So Hey,
To be fair, I'm pretty sure if you listen to the episode with Bigfoot doing the Steven Stayner story, he tells how he died. And I'm also like 90% sure I was on that episode.
All right. So if Greg wins by less than 1,000, we're calling this victory into question, bro.
Cool. I'm down with that.
So
It has an asterisk.
Steven's gone. We got a little bit more into Cary here. We're gonna take a step back really quick. John's got a story. I'm stoked for it. He's got a connection to it as well, which is kind of cool. So take a break from Cary. Steven's officially gone. Cary'd be stoked about that anyway, probably. And let's check out John's story. What do you got, brother? Take your time. Take your time if you need to get some water.
It's middle school shooting, so not a high school or a college. It's actually a middle school. These kids are real young. It's gonna take the lives of 3. It's the shooter is Barry Lukaitis, and he decided on, let's see if I can get, February 2nd, 1996, Frontier Middle School. I went to this high school, or this junior high, and my sister was actually at school when this happened.
Younger sister, older sister?
Older sister.
Okay, that's right, 96.
Yeah. My oldest sister, actually. He walked in, and he was dressed like Walker, Texas Ranger. Like full, like duster, like guns in the hips, shotgun in the
Ask if he
hand.
had the duster.
Yeah, he
Well, that's the finishing look for Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah, he came in. He was actually inspired by Walker, Texas Ranger. I guess he had the box set at home when they like.
Dang.
Yeah, he was
lamest killing inspiration of all time.
What are you talking about? You'd name another killer who could roundhouse kick somebody into the next life.
Oh, he wishes he was, but he wasn't even close. No, he walks in there and he's got a rifle, a 30-30 rifle, a 357 Magnum revolver, and a 25 little pistol.
He came.
I believe it was a Colt.
He came meaning business.
Yeah, he had 78 rounds altogether for all of them, like with him, on him, in his duster. Like he meant business. So he walks into his algebra class, and there was a big argument on this because the 2 kids that he shot were supposedly his bullies of the school. So he shot Manuel and Arnold. Manuel was supposed to be his main bully, so he shot him first.
Dang,
and
vigilante kill.
Yeah, and then Arnold was sitting next to him. He shot him too. And then for some reason, nobody really knows why he shot this 13-year-old girl, Natalie, who's also in the class. The 2 boys were 14. She was 13. And then
being a fuckface.
Yeah, basically. And then he whips around and he shoots the teacher. And just as he shoots the teacher, he remarks, "This is better than algebra class."
This is fucking Garfield shooting at these people? Like, what?
The reason he said it was the novel Rampage from Stephen King. The antagonist in that says that line.
A lot of pop culture inspiration
this kid
for this kid.
Was stuffed with it. Yeah, he had it all over. He had it in spades. So, he pops a shot off. The shot that he took the teacher out with went through the wall and into the classroom, the next classroom.
Damn.
Which was my sister's classroom.
Whoa.
And when I went to school there was still the bullet hole there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was everybody. I mean, it was a big thing, obviously. Yeah. But
damn. So she was next door to the room that it happened in.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. But the PE teacher, which I had him for PE as well for 1 year, he heard all this noise. Obviously, walks into the classroom, and obviously Barry takes him and is like, they held him there. I think it was like an hour. They held him there, and all the cops obviously are outside. There's snipers on the roofs looking in. Which my dare officer was one of the snipers for the Moses Lake PD.
Damn, was this a pretty small town?
Super small town.
What kind of population?
Greg's
maybe?
Actually has been there.
Damn.
I don't know, like probably now 10,000.
Oh shit! So even now it's even small.
Yeah, but then it was, I mean, probably 8.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it's tiny. It's
Damn.
super tiny.
Okay, so this would be a huge, like everybody in town is connected to it somehow.
Well, yeah, he actually had to change the venue because it was such a small town. They actually had to send it to Seattle.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so he had the PE teacher, and he's like, well, I'm getting out of here and you're coming with me. So after the hour's up, he grabbed the actually the PE teacher volunteered to be the hostage, and so he was walking him out, and halfway through, like they're almost to the front doors, the PE teacher notices that he doesn't have his finger on the trigger, and so he swipes the gun and tackles him, wrestles him to the ground. And
badass.
Just starts screaming because it was right in front of the front office, and the girls in front office obviously are underneath the desk.
Yeah.
So they pop up and they're like trying to get the cops' attention to come in, and they come in, tickle him.
PE teacher's like, "Come on, fucking kick him in the face! Come on, I got him down! Kick him in his stupid face!"
It was quite a scene in that small little town.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But afterwards, he got sentenced to like 130. Oh no. He got sentenced to life, but in 2012, they did the thing where nobody under the age of like 15 or something like that could be sentenced to life.
I see.
So they redid it. He actually got a new hearing or whatever, a new sentence, and they sentenced him to like 138 days or something like that.
Oh, whoa.
And that was this year they resentenced him.
So he's like, it was like a time served kind of deal.
Yeah.
Since 96, that's 21 years.
Yes, he still has years and years and years to go.
Yeah.
He's never getting out. But when he, during this last hearing, all the families obviously went and stuff like that. He stood up and he addressed them and he told them, like, he wasn't my bully. Like, he was a good kid. I'm sorry. I don't want you guys to go through this ever again. And waived all further, like, stuff. Like, he looks like an old man now. Like, he's gray.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
So,
damn.
Yeah.
Crazy, dude. Little, what the hell? Why didn't you bring your sister, bro? We got to get her on here sometime.
Right.
For what it's worth, I looked it up. The population of Moses Lake is 22,641 as of 2016.
Okay. Still, though, 22,000 is a small-ass town.
It's still small.
Like, I think the town we live in
town.
is small, and we float, like, right around the 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a small town. Like you said, it's the biggest
Well,
small
but,
town.
Small town.
Yeah, it's a super small town.
Yeah, it's a tiny
Wow.
town.
Shit, school shootings are always
Yeah.
heavy, and that's one I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Never.
It was a long time ago, 96.
Yeah, I know, but it feels like that's early for school shootings. That's like feels like I should for sure have heard of it because it's like in the peak time where they're starting to take place. But yeah, cool, man. Thanks for bringing that, dude.
Yeah, no problem.
Hell yeah. So, jump back to Cary and not Steven's story. God, this isn't about fucking Steven, you guys. So, Steven died in the motorcycle accident. Greg scored some points on that one. In 1990, Cary Stayner is now 29 years old, and his uncle is found dead in the home he shares with him. Now, if you guys will recall, this is the same uncle who 17 years ago molested Cary in a tent during a camping trip, and he is found dead at their home, and he's found shot, killed in his living room with his gun. And the only other person that lives with him is Cary. Cary ends up being cleared of all charges somehow. I think Cary's like official story was that like a vagrant came in and was trying to steal coins from his uncle and ended up getting the gun. And,
Coins? What is he, fucking Mario?
yeah, yeah,
Stealing coins?
So yes, his uncle Mario is now dead. In 1991, he is now 30. He parks in the garage, closes the door, and never turns the car off and attempts suicide with carbon monoxide. It did not work. That's all I have here. There were some more details. I don't really give a shit. It didn't work. It should have. In 1995, at 34, he goes to Merced County Mental Health Department saying he was having a mental breakdown. He was treated and released in less than 2 weeks. Question number 6. In 1997, he is arrested For what? This is multiple choice only. I believe it is Greg's turn to answer first.
Well, no, doesn't John have to stab? No, if he takes all multiple choice, I think he can come back.
Yeah, but this one is multiple choice only specifically. So I don't know that there are. Like I said, I'm not sure that there's opportunity. But you got better win by more than 1,000, or we're calling it into a question, like we said. So, yes, he is arrested. And why was that? Was it A, assault, B, molestation, C, drug possession, or D, grand theft auto?
If I get to guess first?
Yeah, I believe it is your turn to guess first.
GTA all the way.
Greg is taking GTA, Cary Stayner's first arrest in 1997.
As much as I do think it is grand theft. What was C?
Drug possession.
I don't think it's drug possession.
Ooh,
B?
that's a good one.
B is molestation, and A is assault.
Dang.
They're all so good. They're all such like good little petty things.
Grand theft as well, because that's the only one that I really feel it.
2 GTAs, you guys felt your gut and you went with it to crash and burn. Oh, 0 points for both of you. Cary Stayner is arrested in 1997 for drug possession.
Oh.
Yes. Bonus question.
Ooh, bonus.
He was arrested for possessing 2 separate narcotics. For 100 points per narcotic, what are those 2 narcotics?
We gotta write them down, or
Nah. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna let you write it down, and then Greg, you could just send me it in your message. John can't see it.
narcotics, huh?
I'm gonna do that for the rest of the questions now that we got this worked out, because I didn't tell John to bring anything for the last one. So you can just keep that.
All right.
Greg's giving me his. You can write yours down.
2 narcotics.
John's putting some thought into it.
You probably wrote down something like cough syrup and children's Advil or something.
What do you
Some
got?
scissor.
Let's see.
I got meth and heroin.
Dang, meth and heroin. If I'm not mistaken, that's exactly what Greg guessed. It is in that order, meth and heroin. So you guys will both get 100 points out of it. He was in possession of methamphetamine. That second one, and I was hoping one of you guys would jump on it because of how I kept saying narcotic. It was marijuana. But
see, I wanted to guess that, but I would think
it is.
I don't feel like it is though.
It was a narcotics arrest. They referred to it as a narcotic the entire time. That's why I was
this
like
was 1997.
Yeah, that's why I was like over. Yeah, this is we're in the heart of the war against drugs right here.
I was just thinking like, what goes good with meth? A little bit of heroin.
Right? That's what I was thinking as well. And
Slow yourself down, bring yourself right back up.
Yeah, it's the old ups and downs, It's
Yeah, I was trying to help with narcotic.
But see, that just made me think, okay, not weed, because weed's not a narcotic. But I guess it is. I guess everybody else.
Yeah, it was exactly. So,
I mean, you had to ingredients to make these other two.
Yes, exactly. What are you doing, Cary?
Come on now.
So he's arrested for marijuana and methamphetamine charges. He's also just after this, 36, he gets out of jail and he lands a job at the Cedar Lodge. Now, I've been to the Cedar Lodge and I knew of this story, but for whatever reason, I had never stayed at the Cedar Lodge, but I remember pulling over there one time and stopping in that parking lot and like chilling, a little break on the way from Yosemite. We were heading to somewhere else. Anyway, I've been to this hotel. He gets a job there to do odd jobs, and he's a handyman, kind of janitor job. At this time, his mobile home is also repossessed, so he moves into the Cedar Lodge Hotel. Question number 7. He is about to get killing. How many total kills does Cary Stayner have? Closest to the answer is going to get 500 this time. So, Greg sent me his. You can just say it out loud. Greg already sent his.
All right, I'm going to go with 12.
John saying 12. Greg saying 6 and getting the 500 points. Sorry, John. It is definitely out of it now. The Cary Stayner will kill 4 people. So he just crosses the serial killer line. We're going to take one more break and come back with, for all intents and purposes, the rampage. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, bye. Hey, everyone. One of the coolest things about podcasting so far has been meeting a lot of people, whether it be other true crime podcast hosts or just podcast hosts of other genres or just people who are generally and overall interested in podcasting. Everybody loves it. It's a tight-knit community, and that's really cool. I just wanted to give a really quick shout out to a few podcasts that have shown us some love and a little help and support at times. So just a really quick shout out to Red Handed, the podcast, Color Me Dead, Queens of Crime, Stiff Joystick for all you video game lovers, Conspiracy Therapy, Hello Creeps, Shutterbugs, and coming soon, the True Crime Storytime, which is a few members from Just Another Murder podcast, if you happen to have been a fan of that one. So, again, thanks to all those podcasts for showing some support and love for the serial chillers. All right, well, shit is about to get wild. Okay, welcome back to the Serial Chillers podcast. Again, John made it into the studio. Greg is still across the internet, as per usual. Have we, besides the first episode of Anxious Experts, done a studio show together?
I don't think the first episode we actually did together.
Oh, that's right. We tried.
That was the one we tried, and we couldn't get past the awkwardness of it.
Yep. Oh, wow. All right. Well,
we've come a long way.
Yeah.
That was just over a year ago, I believe.
It was indeed. Thank you, Facebook, for reminding us.
Right.
So,
hey, remember when you guys were pretty good, but then you sucked a little bit?
Yeah. the producer Greg note, quote unquote. There's 4 quotes around producer Greg and 2 notes around note. So, in 1999, Cary Stayner is 38 years old, and on February 15th, Carol Sund, her daughter Julie, and Argentine exchange student and good friend Selvina Peloso were all on a vacation through Yosemite. They were hiking and sightseeing and had rented a car, a 1999 red Pontiac Grand Prix.
Dang.
Pretty hot shit, because it was 1999. That thing was probably pretty clean. They were supposed to meet Carol's husband at the San Francisco airport the next day on the 16th to end their trip. He was there waiting for them, and they never arrived. Now, 1996, it's not pre-cell phone, but it's pre-everybody having a cell phone for sure. And this family was not a cell phone family. So the husband is waiting at San Francisco airport, and he's there for like 5 or 6 hours before his wife gets there, and he starts to just think, I must have just got it wrong. Like her flight's later today, or it was earlier today, or it's tomorrow, and I'm just like, I'm tripping, like I'm wrong. So he flies to Arizona as he's supposed to, and she's not there. And then the next morning when she's not there, he's like, fuck. So he reports her missing. So there's a lot of suspicion put on him at first because
obviously
waited kind of a long time on just like well, did she say that? There was never really any attempts to, really corroborate it. I think that someone said in one of the documentaries, and I don't know that it's 100% for sure, but that he had gone and played a round of golf in between realizing that they were missing and reporting them missing. So, so they did never arrive to go to Arizona. He reports them missing. He gets a hold of the hotel that they were staying at, the Cedar Lodge, and the Cedar Lodge informs them that they did pack up cleanly, and it looks like they had just left maybe an hour before, but they did not officially check out. They left the key on the nightstand. So nothing looks out of the ordinary in the room. The towels are still wet because the 3 young ladies took showers and got out of there that morning. The night of February 15th, Cary Stayner had actually approached the room because he had seen the 2 younger girls in there, and that was one of his big fantasies, was 2 chicks at the same time. So
this guy didn't have $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Top chicks double down on dudes like me do. So he approaches the room, and he's a Cedar Lodge employee, and he knows that this particular building or wing is occupied by one set of people. So he's going around and he's doing like fake knocks on the doors and letting people know about a leak so they can kind of hear him 2 or 3 and 4 doors down. And he gets to their room and lets them know there's a leak, and he's just come in and check at the bathroom and make sure they're not leaking too. And Carol's son is at first really reluctant to let him in, and he's very charming, this Cary Stayner, and he convinces her to let him in to check for the leak. So once he's inside, he goes back to the bathroom, and he comes out, and he looks like he's about to tell him like, hey, everything's good, no worries. And instead he pulls out a .22 pistol and forces the 2 young girls into the bathroom. He goes outside, and it says silently strangles Carol's son in the hotel room and takes her out and puts her in the Grand Prix's trunk. He then comes in, and he takes a tied up Julie's son, the younger 15-year-old daughter, puts her in the hotel room, goes into the bathroom, and strangles Silvina Peloso. Puts Julie face down, takes Silvina out, and puts her in the trunk as well. Wraps Julie in a blanket, puts a pillowcase over her head, puts her in the car, and leaves with her. There are altering accounts here as well, because some say that he sexually assaulted or raped her before they leave the hotel. Some say that didn't, and Cary also says that they didn't, and there is signs that there's sexual trauma, but from what I read, some people argue that and say that Julie's son could have just had sex in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. She was 15, and it was unlikely, that a lot of people said, but it's one of those things. Who knows? Who really knows? So he takes her, and he's kind of driving around with her, and she has no idea that her mom and her friend are dead. He's given her no indication, and they're not there, but she didn't hear them die. She didn't see them die. She didn't see them leave either, but I'm guessing at 15 it's a wishful thinking. A lot of the cops from the documentaries, I watched probably 4 or 5 documentaries on this. This is very interesting to me. Merced is 45 minutes away. It's pretty close. Yosemite's about the same. A little farther. For whatever reason, there are a ton of documentaries about this. I think it's because it's a very recent crime, but all the cops praise her for doing what he said and going on. Like they praise her for staying alive as long as she does. So she is in the car with Stayner, and there's not a lot of conversation between the two of them. I don't know what they would talk about, even if there was, but he gets to a spot at Lake Don Pedro and carries Julie out to a very hidden spot right near the lake in some thick bushes. It was said that he carried her out like a groom carries a bride over the threshold. He just straight up under the legs, under the back, carried her all the way out there like that. And the sun is coming up at this point, so he's kind of panicking. So he takes her down to the thick brushed area, pledges his love to her, and slits her throat, leaving her there to die. After he kills her, he knows he must get rid of the rented 1999 red Pontiac Grand Prix. He drives to a logging road, backs the car down the road and off a beaten path, and he hit it off the road so well that even though it was only about 60 yards off the road, from the road, you could not see it. Red car in the forest. Just so thick back there. He from there hikes down the road a little and catches a cab and takes it back to Yosemite. It was a $150 cab ride, all of which had been stolen from Carol's son's wallet. He then returns 2 days later to burn the car. On March 18th, Carol's son's rental car is found located in Tuolumne County by a hiker who was out. Some say hiker, some say it was someone out target shooting. Either way, it was someone out in the forest walking around. They find the burned out car. The story by this time, very huge, because we're talking this is March 18th. The killing happened, they believe, on February 15th. So this is a month later. The story has gained a lot of fame. So the guy who stumbled upon the car almost immediately recognized it, even though it's charred to oblivion. There's a few red paint flecks left, and you can see the license plate. That's really it. It was a pretty impressive burn job, to say the least. I've seen, videos of people burning cars, and it's like, oh, there's some black on the side, and like that actually might buff out. This was
Well,
this was a torch vehicle.
Actually, was made out of a lot of that dent-resistant panel.
That plastic.
Yeah.
That 2-liter bottle panel.
It had cladding up and down the side of that thing. Most of it was that. So
it would have
even
just
if there
melted.
was any metal left, it would just been like tops of doors and like jams. And then
that's like exactly what it was. It was just a frame.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's why that would have happened.
There we go. See, got some insight from a car guy. So, there were obviously still human remains in the car. The police weren't sure of how many. They couldn't tell if it were 1, if it were 2, or if it were 3.
That's fucked up to roll up on, dude.
Yeah, that guy didn't get into it though. He knew what car it was. He saw the car, got the fuck out of there, called it in. So the police take it and they do some tests and find that it is indeed Carol Sund and Silvina Peloso's badly charred bodies that are found inside the trunk. On March 22nd, dental records positively... oh, you know what? Sorry. That was pretty much the same thing. March 25th, a letter arrives. 2 things about this statement I'm about to make that blew my mind. One is that an anonymous letter with a map to Julie Sund's body arrives. Okay. Pretty fucking crazy, right? The crazier part is where it arrived, at the FBI's Modesto division. That's a thing. There is a Modesto branch of the FBI.
Huh.
I had no idea. I mean, it makes sense. It's a big city. Yeah. Greg's wondering how long it would take him to get to Modesto and vice versa. They would get to you a lot faster, Greg.
Well, yeah, because I don't have the budget for a fucking helicopter, Jesse.
And because they're probably already parked outside.
That's what I'm saying. Those were the technical issues. You know what? I don't want to get into it right now. Not the time or the place.
It's never the time or the place, Greg. So, torches the car. They get the human remains. They get the anonymous letter that arrives to the FBI Modesto office. They find some DNA on the envelope. They run a profile, and it comes back as a hit that the profile would be of a Hispanic young man. And they get a partial fingerprint, which doesn't get a hit in the system anywhere. At this point, the note is opened, and it's a map of Lake Don Pedro. There is a map to the location of Julie's body, and across the top it says, "We had fun with this one." Now, a lot of people, obviously he's saying that, maybe it's not obvious, but he's saying that they raped her. A lot of people don't know if, and this might touch your conspiracy side a little, Greg, is that some people say that he got excited. You should see his face right now. A lot of people say that there were other people involved. That's we had fun with this one. Other people will just say that Cary was trying to make it seem like there were other people involved. Take what you will, and I can get you a little more information on that, kind of broke it down to be as quick as possible. But this is very Henry Lee Lucas at times. Besides the fact that Henry Lee Lucas was the one being like, it's Satan crew. That's who's doing this to me. Cary Stayner never said anything like that, but there are some,
just like killing and raping.
Yeah, there are some theories. So Julie Sund's body is found based on the letter sent by Cary Stayner to the FBI. The reason that there was a young Hispanic male's DNA on the envelope was that Cary paid one to fill a cup with spit so he could use it to seal the envelope.
Dang.
Yeah. So that kind of gives a little credence and 1 point to the fact that he probably did it alone, and the "we" is something that he's doing to throw it off. Let me give you another one, because I don't know that I added it in the future. He dampened the towels in their room the morning before he knew the housekeepers would get there, so that it would look like they had been there. He went back and he cleaned up a little, and he dampened the towel so it would look like they had left around 10, not been killed the night before.
Well, he did a good job. I mean, that's
so
what they thought.
very methodical. we're going to fast forward here to July 21st. Joy Ruth Armstrong is a naturalist and employee of the park. She is setting up for a trip to the Bay Area to meet up with some of her friends. She's loading her truck back and forth from her cabin. When she does not arrive at the time of her trip, her friends do what Carol's son's husband probably should have done and immediately reach out to the National Park Service and request a wellness check on Joey's cabin. They oblige the wellness check, and when they arrive, the officer notices her partially loaded truck still outside. He looks towards the cabin and notices that a door is slightly ajar. As soon as he opens the door, he realized that this was a scene of a violent crime. Those were his words. Like he said, he opened the door, he got chills down his spine, just kind of looking at the condition of the house. And he knew there's no body, but he knew this was the scene of a violent crime. He was right. As Joey was setting up for her trip, Cary approached her with his gun and forced her inside. Once inside, Cary attempted to gain control and assault her, but she put up a far greater fight than Cary anticipated, and he was beginning to lose control and did not like this. He began to get frustrated, but then somehow gained control enough to tie her up and force her into his truck, and his truck had already been seen by 2 people in the area at the time. So that's going to be big later. So he loads her into this truck, and they start driving down this dirt road. And as they're driving, Joey launches out the open passenger window. She's tied up at her hands behind her back, handcuff style, with duct tape, if I'm not mistaken. So she gets the feet down on the floor of the truck and just launches out of the open window.
Dang,
Lands, tumbles, takes off sprinting. Cary pulls over, chases her down, and he still can't gain control. He gets there, and she's fighting. So he decides that at this point he's just going to cut his loss, and instead of fleeing, he shoots her in the head. So he shoots her, and she goes down, and I think that this gave him kind of a reality check of how much he could be out of power. So once she's dead, he really takes advantage of this, and he ends up actually decapitating her. Yeah, right. Let's go back to the cop now. So the cop's seeing the house and the state that it's in, and he knows, like, he's not even bothering diving in on his own. He calls for backup. This is bigger than me right now. So they get back up in there, and within an hour they've already formed their own search party, because it's clear that this girl's gone. Her truck's here. She should have been somewhere else. The front door's open. The house is a goddamn mess. And it said somewhere around 600 yards from the house, in a drainage ditch, they found a body face down in the water. Face down is a poor term. I couldn't think about how to put it, because she is decapitated, and the head is not
think
nearby.
about that shit. You got to use your head here.
Yeah.
Go front down, I guess.
Yeah, front down.
Front down.
She is partially undressed and very decapitated. On July 23rd, Stayner was questioned about this, as his vehicle was seen in the area by 2 different eyewitnesses. I should point out that he was also questioned and quickly cleared about the Cedar Lodge murders, because he did work there. You would assume they would interview everybody, and they did. He was pretty much said, like, yeah, I wasn't around, and, you know, nobody had anything really to say other than that, and he wasn't really a suspect anyway, and he was very quickly cleared of the crime. So same kind of deal here. They questioned him about seeing his truck in the area, and they ask if he was just in the area, and he, nowhere near there. And it starts to throw up red flags for them, because why would he say he's just not even in the area when they have eyewitnesses saying for sure it's in the area? So what they do is they kind of search the area around Joey Armstrong's cabin, and they see this several tire tracks going through there. One of the tire tracks very clearly has 2 different sets of tires on the truck or car. So they take a plaster mold of this, because this stands out to them for whatever reason. Greg, you're giggling. You good over there?
I'm good.
You're getting excited.
I'm still caught up on that conspiracy thing you said earlier. So
see, that's all it
I'm just trying to figure out how it would work with multiple people.
You're trying to think right now?
Yeah, like, I'm just listening to what you're saying, and I'm trying to, like,
imagine,
well, if you had multiple people, one would do this and one would. But
cool. All right. I just like to see where your head's at sometimes, producer Greg.
It's a scary place, man.
So they take a plaster mold of this vehicle with 2 different sets of tires on it. So Police officers again see his truck parked near a creek. They pull up to it again to ask him a few questions. Turns out, down by the creek side, old Cary Stayner is practicing one of his favorite hobbies, being in the nude. Hanging out on the creek side, just nude, smoking a joint. So nude, smoking a joint on the creek. His marijuana was immediately confiscated, but they did not believe that they had anything to hold him on, and he was again released.
Even if they did. All right, you cuff him.
I don't wanna.
How many times does this happen with serial killers? Like, they get caught, they're there, and then the cops are like, no, we're
They're
good.
charming as shit, man.
That's true.
Didn't the cops in Dahmer's case walk one of his victims back into the apartment?
Yeah, back into his custody.
Yeah, gave it back to him.
Yeah, they were like, here. And he wasn't he an underage boy who was naked or something?
Underage Filipino boy who had been drugged and beaten
had a
badly.
collar on.
Yeah. So,
yeah. So, whoops.
End result.
Back you go.
Yeah, exactly. So one astute officer, though, during this exchange by the creek, goes ahead and takes a few photographs of Stayner's vehicle and his tires. Not illegal to do that. You could take a picture of that shit. So, Stayner's spooked. They send the photos in, and sure as shit, those photos match the set of tire tracks that was at Joey Armstrong's driveway. Police put a little he doesn't show up for work. It's the first time in a year and a half that he's even been late. He just doesn't show up at the Cedar Lodge. So at this point, the FBI is involved, the Modesto PD is involved. There's a bunch of different agencies that are in and part of this investigation, and they go to Cedar Lodge to pick him up because they're ready to make an arrest, and they can't because for the first time ever he's not there. Like I said, he got spooked, so they put out a bolo, or be on the lookout for Cary Stayner, and this goes big too because they think he's connected to this murder of Joey Armstrong, so it stretches far. So this nudist colony he is at is about 160 miles north near Sacramento, and somebody at this nudist colony that he escapes to recognizes him and calls it in. So they find Cary Stayner at the Laguna del Sol nudist camp, where he was found at the colony. When he was found at the colony, the police walked in, and without saying anything to them or them saying anything to him, Cary placed his hands on top of his head as if he were being arrested. Another red flag for Cary Stayner.
That's what you do when you know you're done.
Right. All right.
Well, that's what you do when you're trying to be alpha and you just want to shake your dick at some cops.
That's true. That is true too.
A little helicopter action.
So, on the way to the jail, one of the arresting FBI officers seemed to gain Cary's trust by asking him if he could talk about Steven. He could tell that Cary was hurt and broken and offered to get him help. Once he arrived at the station, Fresno County Jail, by the way, he was booked, and he requested TV reporter Ted Rowlands. This guy was a reporter from either Modesto or Merced, I can't remember. But he is a reporter, and he wants, for whatever reason, Cary Stayner wants to talk to him. So Rowlands goes and talks to him without a cameraman because he doesn't want to feed to his ego. And Cary Stayner says essentially the thing that he wants to trade for his story is the fact that they're going to turn it into a movie just like they did for his brother. And Rowlands pretty much says, well, listen, fuck you. I'm going to promise you nothing. And Cary Stayner was said to go something like, all right, so it started when, and then he just gave him the story anyway. He was his promises were rejected, and he just decided, you know what, I want to talk about this anyway, so let me talk about it.
You gotta play some hardball sometimes.
Yeah, right? It just didn't work for Cary Stayner this time. So he confesses to Armstrong's murder and explains it in full to them. He says, quote, I lost control of myself and lost control of her. When all this started out, I had no intentions of cutting her head off, end quote. He also says that he can clear up the 3 murders by which he meant Carol, Julie, and Sylvia. So the arresting officer and Thomas Rowlands were talking about how he says, he tells about Joey Armstrong. He sort of summarizes, and he says, you know, sometimes I think about world peace, and other times I just think about killing everybody in the world. And he said, I've done bad things. I did bad things to Joey Armstrong, and I can help you out with another problem. And the cops are like, well, what are you talking about? Like, are you talking about, Carol, Julie, and Sylvina? And he just shakes his head, yes. So he knows he's done some bad shit. On July 26th, he's arraigned in federal court in Sacramento as the murder of Joey Armstrong took place on federal land. Question number 8. He will go in for psych evaluations and is found fit to stand trial. True or false?
I'm going with true.
John says true. He is fit to found. Greg is also taking true. Fit to trial. Correct. Both of you guys are getting 100 points. True or false? I just wanted to throw one in there. I was just curious to see how it would look. Meh. I say the answer is
I think.
meh.
Well, I mean, like I feel like I remember sitting in my either my aunt's house or my grandparents' house at the time of all this happening, and like being over there like after school one day or something and watching it on the news.
You would have been in about the 8th grade, I think.
Yeah.
If that gives you a... Yeah. So, in the year 2000, on June 6th, an evaluation includes results that Stayner has brain abnormalities consistent with schizophrenia, psychotic disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder, but he is fit to stand trial.
I was going to say that was the we had fun with her.
Oh, the multiple personalities.
Personality, yeah.
Ah, maybe you're right. So
that was my initial like thought, and then you threw the conspiracy thing at me, and it hit me like a fucking ton of bricks.
Yeah, that's not bad, man. On July 12th, the judge rules that the government may seek the death penalty. However, Joey Armstrong's mother does not believe in the death penalty and fights vehemently for the right to keep Cary Stayner alive. She wants him to do life in prison. She doesn't believe in the death penalty, even though this guy... So the judge allows him to plead guilty to avoid the death penalty, which is what Stayner does. On November 30th, he pleads guilty to the murder of Joey Armstrong. And it doesn't work out. It's I believe 138 years they gave him for the... we can't give you death, but we can give you life. So, question number 9. We're going to head into the trial for the murder of the other 3 young ladies. What will be the penalty for the 3 murders? This one is also multiple choice only. Is it going to be A, death, B, life without parole, C, life with possibility of parole, or D, he gets insanity in the second case?
Drawn and quartered, is that a thing? They put him in the brazen bull, the giant brass bull that they build a fire under.
That's so gnarly. What do you think, John? They give him the death penalty?
Life without.
Giving him life without. So he's just got 4 life sentences. Greg says death. On August 26th, a jury returns guilty verdicts of 9 separate counts, 3 of first-degree murder and 1 of kidnapping, and he was given the death penalty. There you go, Greg. Your domination continues in episode 22 about Cary Stayner. Fucking cheater. You've actually scored on all but one question.
Which one didn't I get?
Question number 4. John got it instead of you. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. So he was denied the plea because his psychiatrist said that he knew the difference between right and wrong, as he took very detailed and methodical steps to ensure that he was not going to be caught. But his psychiatrist also says that he was not able to control his violent urges. So, Stayner did not meet the legal standards for insanity. Dr. Jose Silva was of several doctors who determined that Stayner was legally sane when he killed Sund and the 2 teenagers. Silva reviewed events of Stayner's life and said he suffered from an anxiety disorder with features of post-traumatic stress disorder. So it seems that maybe Cary Stayner got PTSD from his brother's kidnapping. and return.
I mean, they were both young when that happened. That'll fuck you up.
7 and 11. Stephen would have been 7. Cary was 11. Yeah, you wouldn't understand at 11. That's like the age where you might like blame yourself for it somehow.
But I think for like,
and then he shows back up.
For like post-traumatic, you'd have to understand it. Like
that's true too, or he understands it now because of 7 years. He's like 18 when he came back. Either way,
he finally dealt with the whole.
Yeah,
he finally dealt with the whole moving on for almost a decade, and then dude just shows back up, and it's a completely different person, but it's still the same person.
And that's kind of what I was saying a little bit about the parents at the beginning. Like how do you like tell him he can't do all the things he's been doing, more of his life with the pedophile rapist that kidnapped him than he's been with you?
Yeah.
They got him back at like 16. He was kidnapped at 7.
Can't treat him like you were going to like the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
Seen some shit, man, and some things.
just as a quick add-on, when Cary Stayner was in when he was in the Mariposa County Jail, my cousin was a sheriff, or he was a jail officer at the time.
I was gonna ask you if he was or not, because
he was working there. He had some face-to-face time with Cary Stayner.
Dang,
he's a big dude apparently.
That's that, and he's like apparently. I only saw like the mug shots and shit. I didn't really look like it at a lot of pictures of his life. He's like a pretty good looking dude. Like
he's just super normal looking.
Like a lot of the cops that processed him, they said they were talking amongst themselves. Like, you think this is the guy? You really think this is the guy that killed 4 people? And all of them were like, no, this guy, not this guy.
He just looked like a little powder puff.
Yeah, no, like not at all. He looked like your neighbor Cary. Like, hey, what's up, Cary? Like he looked like nothing.
Yeah, he was just an average looking dude. Like
he installed car windshields. That's his deal. Like that's it. Like he's just a white guy that put in windshields. It's pretty normal dude. Yeah,
pretty forgettable.
Yeah, let's just say he blended in well.
He blended.
So, Cary Stayner asks for a new trial on grounds that none of the jurors were molestation victims. This is denied.
So to be his peer, you had to have a little touchy-feely, I guess?
In his world, absolutely, you needed to. And the judge said he's an idiot, and that's not how it's going to work. So on December 12th, he is finally sentenced to death by lethal injection in San Quentin, California.
They actually killed him.
Well, he's sentenced to it.
Oh.
Yeah. So 2003... the Sun family, in August of 2003, the Sun family accepts $1 million wrongful death settlement from Cedar Lodge. And to this day, Stayner is alive and well in San Quentin.
Because California doesn't kill anyone.
Well, I was reading up on that too, and I feel like I knew a pretty okay amount, but it's we just can't find a good way to kill people. A good humane way. I was reading about it today. It's not so much the killing people as we can't get this medication because this country doesn't let us take it because they know we're just using it to euthanize humans. So
they can't get it even if they wanted it.
Right. And that's not even really probably the most ethical way to be killing people. They're discussing too. So there's a whole thing about it. And I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm sure there's a bunch of government red tape shit that's going on too, because right now I think what were we talking, Greg? 17 and a half years as the standard average time someone spends on death row before being executed. And it's just getting longer every day.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to San Quentin, you can say what's up to Cary Stayner anytime. That's pretty much all I have about him. The trial was pretty unremarkable. I usually have a little more about a court case, but it was just like pretty open and shut all the way through. He was pretty open about all of it. So
it's pretty transparent.
There's another thing I want to add really quickly to the end here is that the FBI, their real issue was the fact that he's got these 4 murders, possibly one a little earlier with Uncle Jesse, but they are very, very afraid of how clean and how methodical these 4 murders are. Like, their assumption is that these 4 are not the only 4. They are just the last 4. And that the number of people that Cary Stayner could be responsible for, they don't even have leads, but as people who see serial killers on a regular basis, they effectively have said there's no way these are his first kills. Like, they're too good. So either he's a serial killing prodigy, or there was someone else there, more people there, or Cary Stayner's list might be a little longer, and maybe he just doesn't want to talk about those ones because he's not proud of them. I know that's kind of a big thing with some of these more ego-driven killers, is that they're really only proud of. They really only want to talk about the kills that they're proud of. So,
like, what would make him not proud of it? Like, he just feels bad because maybe it was a younger child,
or maybe it was he didn't
sloppy kill.
Yeah, he didn't do it as clean as he had liked. He didn't,
or it was nobody that he felt worthy of his effort.
Right. It wasn't two chicks. It was just like some bum that he needed to just get a kill out of the way. Like, he just needed to see if he can kill someone, for whatever reason.
Sex worker, somebody that he felt like.
And who knows? I mean, I don't think you and I could sit here. I mean, we could.
Yeah, we could
sit here, and assume all night what he's thinking. But I don't. Look at all the list of psychiatrist's diagnosis that we gave him. It's pretty extensive. Nobody knows.
One of the things we've talked about in the past was that there's a disconnect there for serial killers and their victims, and they don't have empathy. They have something missing there where they just don't click, and so they don't feel for their victims. They view it like work.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a methodical process that they go through. And once they're done and it's out of the way, they can finish it however they want.
Well, and there's both product and process killers. He's very processed. What he got out of it was doing it.
The act of.
Exactly. There's guys like we talked about, Henry Lee Lucas, who was, probably more likely, but he was a little more thrill process product. He did a little bit of all of it, but yeah, this to me seems like a little more process. After that, he just ditched bodies and burned them or left them by the. So, but I mean that's it for Cary Stayner. Thank you, John, for coming over in the middle of the show, bringing a cool school. I mean, again, it's not a cool story. It was not a cool story, John.
No.
But it was an interesting story, very unique that you have kind of a close connection to that with your sister. Sometime we'll have to get like a sound bite from her or something, get it on here. That'd be pretty cool.
She'd probably super enjoy that.
Well, there we go.
Have her call you and leave you a voicemail.
Yeah, that seriously.
Hey, I'm not giving her my number again.
Or have her call the serial killer's number.
Hey, there is a serial killer's
right.
phone
I'm gonna
number.
have her do that.
Hell yeah, that's what's up. Okay, so that's it for tonight. Thank you again, producer Greg, for being here as always. Thank you, John, for making it over here in the middle of the show after starting from another location. And thank you, everybody out there, for listening to episode 22 of the Serial Chillers Podcast. See ya.
Bye.
All right, that was episode 22. Thank you again, guys. Cary Stayner was likely very disturbed, but he was deemed not legally insane, so he is where he belongs now, on death row, and he may never be executed, but we can rest assured that he is also never going to get out. So you've got that, I guess. John's story about Frontier Middle School in Moses Lake was... To me, it was kind of crazy because he wasn't there firsthand, but his sister was next door. He saw the crime scene. Kind of cool. We haven't had any. I mean, it was not cool. Let's be clear. It was not cool. Poor phrasing. But it's interesting to have stories that can come so close. So thanks again for that, John. We really appreciate it. Congrats, Greg, on your dominating victory. By far the most dominating victory we've had on the show. Maybe I chose the wrong story to bring Greg. Forgot completely that he was on the Steven Stayner story, and Bigfoot brought a great rendition of the story. So, very whose line is it anyway? We didn't mention Greg's winning at the end, but who cares, right? Any cool stories or facts about Cary Stayner that I missed or I got totally wrong, reach out to me. By now, you guys know how to do it, but in case you don't, on Facebook, it's Serial Chillers Podcast. Instagram is @Serial Chillers Podcast. Twitter is @Chillers Podcast. You can email me, serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call the voicemail line, 1-805-666-2513. Remember, the show is on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. You can share that with your friends. Please share that with your friends. Patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast is the biggest way you can support the show. You can give as little as $1 a month, as much as $4 million a month. So however you'd like to do that. Also, find me on Untapped for all the beers we get into during this episode. This episode, we just had one sour, a Firestone, Brett, a Rosé. The research came from Radford University. Again, God, thank you so much. Radford University's timeline this time was researched by Martin Chavez, Katie Clark, Toshia Najar, and Matt Sayers. Also used good old Wikipedia, slung over to Murderpedia there, and used the article Cary Stayner, Murder Among the Sequoias by Joe Geringer, and also watched 3 separate documentaries for this one. Watched the Court TV documentary Mugshots, the investigation discovery documentary Trail of Terror, and the UK series Born to Kill also covered Cary Stayner. So music today is by either myself or producer Greg, or as we like to call him, Hella Greg. If you slide on over to soundcloud.com/Hella Greg, you can find his music there. Again, thank you guys all so much for the support. I just kind of want to throw out to everybody, after episode 30, we're going to take a little break for the holidays. So we're going to call it the end of season 1. We're going to roll through episode 30, and we're going to come back either the first or second week of January. I'm a family man after all, and my day job is in retail. So unfortunately, I am hitting the busiest season possible for me. Off the personal note, back to the murder. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, don't talk to strangers.